Welcome to lesson 3-4, solving equations by multiplication or dividing. Today's objective is that we're going to solve problems using the multiplication property of equality and the division property of equality. What you see in front of us is the key concept for the division property of equality. When you divide each side of an equation by the same non-zero number, the two sides will remain equal. As I like to say, whatever you do on one side, we do the other, and it will not change the equation. Both sides will be equal to each other. If you look at the example, this is what a equation that requires the division property of equality. It's this one right here. You see 3x, or 3 times x is equal to negative 12. We want to know what x is, so we try to isolate the variable x by getting rid of the 3. Since multiplication is being used, we're going to use the opposite. Opposite of multiplication is division. Whatever you do on one side, we do exactly the same to the other side. As you can see, we have in red both 3, so we're going to divide by 3, and that gives us the answer x is equal to negative 4. The same type of concept, and our next key concept, is the multiplication property of equality. When you multiply each side of an equation by the same number, the two sides remain equal. So whatever you do on one side, we do to the other. As you can see here in the example, right here is a problem that will use the multiplication property of equality. X divided by 6 is equal to 7. So we want to isolate the x, so we want to get rid of the 6 that's in the denominator. We do that by taking the reciprocal. So we have the reciprocal, and this is what the reciprocal will look like for this. So that's a good concept. 1 over 6 is the same as 6 over 1. Notice that we don't take the x for the reciprocal. In this case, 6 over 1 still means 6. So we're going to multiply both sides by 6. We can cancel out here. 7 times 6, okay, is 42. We'll do some more problems. On this slide, we are going to solve 5x is equal to negative 30. Check your solution is one of the things we need to do. The other is we need to graph it on a number line. So we're going to be a little busy in this problem. First off, I'm going to take the problem out of the directions here so we can work with it. All right, the first thing is we're trying to find out what x is. So we're going to use the division property of equality. That means I'm going to divide, or do the opposite of the multiplication here. So I'm going to divide. And what am I going to divide by? I'm going to divide by 5 because I wanted it to cancel out, or I want it to equal to 1. Let's see here. 5 divided by 5. Yep, that is 1, and that's what I wanted. Notice I always bring down the equal sign. Now, the division property of equality says whatever you do on one side, you do on the other, and that's exactly what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to divide by 5. Now, negative 30 divided by 5, if you have difficulty with that, take out your calculator. It is negative 6. All right, I'm going to check my solution, and yes, if the directions say you got to do it, you got to do it. So basically what I'm doing here is I'm taking my answer where it's just x is equal to negative 6. I'm going to plug it back into my original equation, so it's a plug and chug. So 5 times negative 6 is equal to negative 30. I'm going to check with my calculator. 5 times negative 6, negative 30. Good job. The last thing I need to do is make a number line. All right, for a number line, we're not asking for much. What we're actually doing here is just what you want to establish. We want to at least have the number of the answer on the number line. We want a number that is greater, and we want a number at least that is the least. So negative 7, negative 6, negative 5. Now in order to graph it, I am going to go ahead and put a closed dot, which means include 6, and that is it. That's how we graph using a number line. All right, we can see our next slide has solve y divided by negative 4 is equal to negative 9. Check your solution. So this time we're just going to check our solution after we find out what y is equal to. I'm going to go ahead and pull this out. So y negative 4 is equal to negative 9. Alright, so we're going to use what we've learned, and this will be the multiplication property of equality. I am going to do the opposite of division, which is multiplication, and whatever I do on one side, I'm going to do to the other. I'm using parentheses to represent my multiplication. Now, since I want to isolate the y, that means I want to get rid of the negative 4. So how am I going to do that? Well, I am going to multiply by that negative 4. And whatever I do on one side, the property says, I do to the other. Let's see if that works. Now notice that this is a reciprocal. Okay, and we know that when we multiply by reciprocals, it cancels out. Our multiplies to be 1. And notice that the y stays the same because we didn't get rid of the y, we got rid of the negative 4. And then we go ahead and multiply negative 4 and negative 9, and we get positive 36. So our answer is y is equal to 36. You can have the 1 in front of the y or not. It doesn't matter. Now we're back to a plug and chug situation where I'm going to go back to the original equation right here, and I'm going to plug in 36 wherever there's a y. So 36 divided by negative 4 is equal to negative 9. 36 divided by negative 4, my calculator says negative 9. It checks. And I usually put this little symbol right here to show whoever's correcting my work that this is the check your solution portion of my solution. And here is my answer. On this slide, we're going to take solving equations with multiplication or division into a word problem. Alright, we'll talk about parks. It costs $3 per car to use the hiking trails along the Columbia River Highway. If income from the hiking trails totaled $1,275 in one day, how many cars entered the park? Well, let's see here. I know that it costs some sort of money. And if I multiply that by the number of cars, it would give me the total. So I'm going to look at the problem again, and yes, it costs $3 per car. We don't know how many cars because that's what it's asking us for. And it totaled for that one day 1,275. So my x is going to be representing the number of cars that entered the park that day. Alright, so 3 times x is equal to 1,275. I want to know what x is, so I'm going to isolate the x. In order to do that, I must remove the 3. Since it's multiplication, I'm going to go ahead and divide. And in order to get 3 to 1, I'm going to divide by itself. So 3 divided by 3 is 1, and the x stays there. Property of equality says whatever you do to one side, I do the other. 1,275 divided by 3 is 425. Now my answer is x is equal to 425. You can have the 1 or not the 1 in front of your x. And I'm looking over here, and x is supposed to be the number of cars, so it's 425 cars.